everybody. I'm back with another episode on Newcomers to Trailblazers. This time we have my favorite person on the show, Rasie.
Rasie is a leadership coach, book coach, speaker, and author of Amazon bestsellers Lead in Your Truth and Heal on Your Terms. She helps corporate leaders lead their teams more effectively through self leadership and supports authors with their book construction process from idea to publishing. She is giving back to our world through her youth mentorship program. She is empowering and helping our youth take control of their lives by providing mentorship, resources, and access to reliable mentors. Closing the opportunity gap in leadership is at the core of Rasie's work. She does this through her successful coaching programs and youth mentorship program.
So welcome Rasie. How are you?
I'm great, Manisha. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Thank you so much for taking the time in your day and coming down here. So Rasie, I have to ask you something important. When did you move to Canada and how did you move to Canada?
It's interesting. I just shared about this in my book that's coming out, my third book. I wouldn't share any more details. I'll just leave a teaser there. I was born in Sierra Leone and grew up there, and it was beautiful until the Civil War happened. I had a lot of great memories, and then the war happened. So there's that trauma that I've having to deal with. And so then I moved to the Gambia in hopes of having an opportunity to move to the US or Canada. And then I had an opportunity to move here on refugee status. And I still remember when we're on the plane, my guardian and other people who I moved here with, there was bittersweet, emotions that were happening for me. I was like, oh, I'm so sad that I'm leaving my family, all the people that I've known my whole life, right? This is up to 13 years old. And I turned 13 on the plane on my way here. And then there was this excitement of visualizing, because I've always visualized even as a kid. I didn't know the word was visualization, and looking into the future and knowing I am going to land in the land of opportunities. I get to do better, and I get access to education. I get access to opportunities to do better for myself. And then in return, I get to do so much more for my family. One of the things that I experienced, after moving to Vancouver, because we came in around the winter time, and seeing the snow, I was like, this is so cool. This is so excited. And at the same time, I'm like, this is so hard to walk on. And then now fast forward, I'm like, I don't want to drive in this, but I love it. It looks beautiful where it's at. But that's how I got to Canada on refugee status. There's so much to unpack. There's so many things. I delivered a keynote a few weeks ago and talking about all the questions that I had as a 13-year-old. There was a lot. I didn't understand for the longest time why I was the only person in specific rooms. So at school, I was the only person that looked like me in a lot of classes. There was probably four of us who were Black and from Africa in the school I went to, HC Stafford at the time. And, and then also in the workplace, I'm the only person that looks like me. So I was confused, what is happening? Why? It's all culture shock, right?
When you mentioned you were able to visualize and you were able to imagine a life for yourself, what would the 13-year-old Rasie, what did you visualize for?
I saw myself going to school, graduating from school with honors, which I did really well with school. And
so you were a smart student?
I was when I enjoyed the subject that I loved doing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, when it comes to physics, and I remember in biology cramming the night before because I wasn't really into it. Mm-hmm. And then with physics, I was trying hard, and it was 3 weeks into physics. I'm like, I got to get out of this class. This is just not working out. What I visualized was going to school and getting really good grades, because that was important. That was at my foundation growing up in Sierra Leone. My parents showed us that. They spoke it and lived it. And with that foundation, it set me up for success in moving into Canada. And I could share a bit more about that after. And I visualized, like pictured myself going to college or university, getting a degree, getting married. And the cool thing that I saw in my visualization, it's like I moved to Canada and then I have like all these new clothes and these like really awesome people in my community. It was all sunshines and rainbow. And what I experienced, like after I got here,
Was not sunshine and rainbows.
opposite.
Yeah.
Complete opposite. But the one thing I kept in my mind that really was like what I held on to was that education, the opportunities. I never let go of that. And I think coming from a place of being compassionate for myself and loving myself, when I'm thinking of these opportunities and lessen the stress and the pressure of I am in Canada and there's so many people in Sierra Leone who do not have this opportunity. I need to do better. I need to take full advantage of it. But I had to unlearn, not putting that pressure on, but how do I do this compassionately and in a loving way for myself?
A 13-year-old knew all this. When I was 13-year-old, I don't remember anything. You have an amazing memory. Even though I don't relate to your experience, I am able to understand that somebody who just moved into teenage, experiencing a completely different setup of life and looking forward to it, that comes from courage, which is built by your family and friends, right? So kudos to you. You're very courageous.
Thank you.
Now that we have spoken about you were the only person of color, a black person, you did not see yourself or you did not see people looking like yourself in your schools or in your workplace. How did you handle that?
I'm going to go back to, I wrote about this in my book, Leading Your Truth. So when I was working at McDonald's, I think it was probably in 2003, this is tiring of being responsible to pave the way and take that first step and showing that there is possibilities. And I remember having this conversation and also doubting myself that, I don't know if I can make it in that management role, right? I don't know if I want to go to the next step. And a lot of that doubt was the lack of representation. I didn't see somebody who looked like me in these different roles. And another example, and I'll tell you how I dealt with that, when I walked into Chapters, where they sell books and stuff. And I was like, it'd be so cool for me to have my own book with like my face on the cover. And then instantly there's that doubt that comes back up, right? That self-limiting voice. Why would anybody want to read your book? Like you're a refugee, like you just moved to Canada. You only live like 13 years of your life. Like who would want to read your story? But it's all these different words, that voice that comes up. And one way I dealt with it is talking about it. So, and I mentioned it in Leading Your Truth. I spoke with my manager at the time, sharing like my doubts of what is coming up for me. And they're able to, give me some words of motivation and also remind me of what I'm capable of. And I also remember speaking to one of my teachers about it. And, and I remember her saying like, you got it, like you can do it. So, and I think it's tapping into like who's around me, who my mentors are, like that really helped me. Even though I didn't see that representation, it moves me to kind of be in a circle with people who are diverse, right? If I look at my friends group, like my close circle, it's from all different cultures. And it is intentional because I want to continue to learn and continue to grow. It is part of my purpose.
Yeah.
All the different experiences that I've been through, the traumas that I've experienced, all happen. It's for a reason. Like, it's hard when I was going through that. It is even more difficult trying to heal it and doing that work from within. And at the same time, I remind myself, this is what I'm here to do. I'm here to pave the way in the work that I'm doing and how I spend time with my family and my friends, how I show up in the world, and how I set that intention to do better and be better. I think that helps me through, and being very clear on that purpose, like my why. Why am I here? And part of it is to pave the way with everything that I do each day.
So you did not see representation and you wanted to become that representation. It is amazing when you say that out loud, and listen to the clarity that she has, right? So she is able to express her thoughts into words, and that's what writers do.
That's what we do.
That's what she does. When I am able to, when I form a sentence in my head, probably I'm using only 4 words and I'm trying to come up with 10 words. When I say it, I'm obviously saying the wrong things when it comes out of my mouth because I don't practice writing. The most important thing about writers is that they put their words down and they know what it would sound like in their mind. So that kind of, I can hear why you are an amazing writer.
It's interesting because when I arrived, right, and we're talking about time, and as you're setting up, I got inspired to just write something about why time is so precious to me. It's interesting. It's like, it's a reverse. Like there's this like inspiration that comes out from words from you speaking. And I'm like, okay, let me write something, right? And get that out.
Do you use all these AI tools?
No. So not for content and for writing. Because I am blessed with a lot of ideas. I don't say that lightly. It's literally, I wake up in the morning. I usually have like my journal where I just free write, like all the ideas, all the thoughts that are flowing through my mind. And even it's really funny. My younger brother in LA, because he knows when those prompts are coming up. So we'll be in conversation, and I'm like, we need to pause. I need to write. I need to get this out, right? And then I'm just free writing. And a lot of my content on LinkedIn and Instagram are created from my free writing, because it's like I'm writing it for myself, and then I convert it and like putting it out there into the U form so people can get a moment to pause, reflect, and seek some motivation from my words. And I do use ChatGPT for structure. So if, let's say, for example, an organization that I'm going in to do some work for, and they want a specific workshop done. And I'm like, I don't have this in my curriculum that I've set up with workshops, right? And then I ask ChatGPT, give me a structure. And then I run with it because I have all the ideas. I have the 16 plus leadership experience, lived experiences of so many different things, right? But it does support me with structure. That's as far as I go with AI.
That's it?
Yeah. And I've experienced like other things, working on different projects. For like, so like when I worked at ISS the BC, we had a project called Smart Move, where we're testing AI innovation. So like, skills, upskilling of newcomers, like the resume, and also the AI interview functionality, e-learning platform for small business employers, etc.
So I want to ask a specific question. You wake up, you write your personal journal, you have so many ideas coming up. You have your own company, you are an author for 3 books, 3rd book coming out, and you do a lot of things. You have had a full-time job and you have been doing this alongside. Now we have pursued full-time entrepreneurship. It's a lot of commitment, right? Out of curiosity, how do you push yourself forward every day?
The one thing that I do, there's actually a few things. I take inventory of my time. So I take note of like how I'm spending my time. How many hours am I spending on replying to emails? How many hours am I spending coaching? How many hours am I spending on the phone having conversations? How many hours, like all the different tasks that I'm doing throughout the day. So that raises my awareness of where my time is going. And then I'm able to strategize and look for ways to make time for what adds value. So it may mean that my dishes, I'm not going to wash my dishes every single night. That's okay, because I'm putting it where it's going to bring me back more value. Or an example could be, I love going for walks, right? There might be some days where I go for 5-10 minute walk instead of an hour walk. That's okay because there's other things that are priorities, right? So it's like setting that intention weekly, daily. And then I'm going to come back to, that the drive, right? Like how do you do it every single day? Like how do you do it all? It's my why. My why is super strong. Like we kind of touched on it a little bit at the start of our conversation. It's I'm paving the way. When I wake up, like I actually shared this with a few of my youth mentees in my program. Like when I am having like a tough day where I'm like, oh, I really don't want to get out of bed today. Or my bed is just warmer than getting up and getting out there and going to the gym. What would I say to my youth mentees if they were in this situation? Right? And then I use that as a motivation to get up because I talk about self-leadership. So all these different things that I share on social media or in conversations about key elements of self-leadership, I'm having a conversation with myself when I wake up in the morning. And another thing that really helps me is I express gratitude first thing when I wake up. And I list all the things that I'm going to be as assuming that I'm already there. And that uplifts me. And then I also set the intention. What is it that I want to accomplish today? What is that focus? Right. And that is even before I open up my computer or anything like that. And then also that free writing in my journal, just getting all those thoughts out of my head that had populated in the morning so that I can make space for other things that are going to happen. And another practice that I do is I utilize my calendar to the maximum. Like I use notes. I want to leave as much space for thinking as possible. There's been times where I'm in meetings and someone will ask a question and maybe they assume that I'll have the answer at the top of my head. And I'm like, 1 second, I'm just going to go check my notes from the last meeting that we had. I don't have to remember all of that.
Yeah.
Because it's just taking up space. And then when I'm in, like, let's say, for example, we're sitting here having a conversation right now. And I have all of that like roaming in my head or stored in my head. It limits my ability to be present and having this conversation with you. But my why is super strong. It doesn't matter what I'm going through or what wall is right in front of me. I know I'm going to knock it down. But I just got to take action. I got to get up and do it. But I know why I'm on earth. Yeah.
When I was growing up, I used to believe that multitasking is a skill.
I've been there.
I used to believe that multitasking is a skill and I was really good at it. Turns out multitasking does not exist. When I was growing up, my parents used to say, listen and eat at the same time. Eat and speak at the same time. When I'm talking to you, I expect you to listen, but keep doing what you're doing, but you listen to me. And multiple things. It's not their fault. And I grew up and I thought, oh, I'm good at multitasking. And then turns out I was wrong, shamelessly, which is okay. And my friend used to say, Monisha, multitasking is a myth. It does not exist. I consciously wanted to monotask. So that was my self-awareness space, right? When I had the opportunity to learn that, you know what, monotasking is also a skill and you can make use of it. But how do you make use of it? When you put that into action, your self-awareness increases. And once your self-awareness increases, you automatically create structure around the work that you want to do. And when you create that structure, process falls in. When I say process, I mean, say calendar management for you is a process. You follow that process. Notes is a process for you. You don't have to remember. Brain's job is not to remember. Brain's job is to imagine and think and flourish, right? Discipline is boring, but boring leads you to success. And that is something that always motivates me. Like when you said, that is why I get up in the morning. I tell myself, okay, boring leads me to success. And that's why I get up in the morning.
Oh, that's beautiful.
You just had thought something to write, didn't you?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That is so good. That is so good. Because some days it's not fun. Like it's not every day that it's fun, right?
Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to reverse back. Not every day, not every moment that it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can't capitalize the whole day. Sum it up like that. But as you're sharing about multitasking, you reminded me of like when I worked at McDonald's, Starbucks, the airport. Especially when I started working at McDonald's, they actually train us to multitask.
I know.
Right?
I know.
And it's like how
Talk to the customer and keep mixing your same thing at the same time. Say yes to the customer, but then you do what you do.
Yeah. And you're like entering stuff and then you're having a conversation and it becomes a lifestyle. Right? And it's I can't even, like, I'm trying to remember when I made that shift of I don't want to multitask anymore. And it was during my burnout. When I had like the massive burnout and it was like a wake up call. Okay, God, I hear you. That's a sign. I hear your message. I'm listening in. I'm going to wake up now. And I remember, choosing not to multitask, like how hard that was. The unlearning of that. And then even when you're in, like when I'm in circles with like family or with friends, there's that expectation to multitask, right? Like it's like, oh, why aren't you cooking and chatting with me at the same time and stuff, right? But then now sometimes it's like, it gets challenging when I want to multitask, when these moments where I'm like, I want to like chat on the phone while I'm driving, which is not advisable. But there's times, it depends on who I'm talking to. Like, let's say, for example, I'm speaking with my partner or speaking to my younger brother. They know, okay, when she stops talking, she's focusing on something. Maybe I'm turning out the lights. Maybe I'm coming to a stop, or maybe a car just like cut me off or something like that. But it takes more effort to stay consistent with it. And just like what we're talking about freeing up the mind, monotaxing, like it creates more room for creativity.
Yeah.
And for me as a writer, I need that because I enjoy it. And it's like my joy. It's my joy feels every single day.
So we have been speaking about your books and your writing and lessons from your books and all of this. When did you know you wanted to become a writer and how did you start the journey?
I've always written. So I had this thing when I've always had like a diary, but I used it as a notebook. Like I'll put in like family members and friends' names and phone numbers in there. And then the other thing is like, I'll write down my thoughts about like conversations I've just had. Like this is like before I turned 13, conversations I had with like family members or with friends, how I felt after is really interesting. And then also with songs. So I would probably say in 1999, 98, 97, around that time, like I will listen to songs and then write down the lyrics. So you're like, I would pause the music, write the lyrics down, and then I'll sing along with it. And then there'll be times where I'll kind of pretend I'm an artist and then write my own songs, like write lyrics and stuff. So I think that's where it started. And then also in high school, I really enjoyed the parts where we had to get creative with writing. Whenever it's like, they'll give us an assignment like, oh, go and read this book or read this article or story and then write your thoughts about it. I did not enjoy that. But when they're like, oh, go and write something about your life story, like this happened in your life and you express it. And I always got A+ on those papers. And I really enjoyed it. But in terms of tapping into it, I didn't tap into it fully, consciously and intentionally until I'd probably say like 2016, 2014, between 2014 to 2016. And that's when I started working on my business plan. And that's when I started to learn like, oh, okay, I enjoy this, like writing, visualizing and painting that picture. And part of the writing process of like writing all my books that I've written and experienced writers who I support through my business, it's visualizing like what do you want for this masterpiece that you're going to put out there? What is that outcome? And then you let that drive your motivation, feed your discipline and focus.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of like writing a book, it was when I walked into chapters and then my self-limiting beliefs silenced the aspiration to write a book. And then each year I've always written like as long as I remember. Yeah.
You have been, probably this is wrong to say, but you have been a natural writer.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll
Yeah.
take it. Yeah. I like the sound of that. Natural writer. Yeah.
So you have to be strong with your why. I have, when I started to read about the golden circle, why, how, and what, and I understood, hey, most of the work, most of the quality of work, most of the quality of life comes from why, and that why is not taught through school education. It is not taught to us through experiences. And you are well in your mid 20s or maybe mid 30s, or some people mid 40s, for them to realize, you know what, why exist, purpose exists. And it is important for us to identify that purpose.
Yes.
And for people who do not know what their purpose is, what do you recommend? What action steps do you recommend to identify their why, their purpose?
You know, I had a moment like because I was in the restaurant and like the service industry for 14 years in total. And then I started working on my coffee shop plans, which that business didn't come through, failed. I was at crossroads. I'm like, what else? Right? I don't know if I want to do this for much longer. And as I'm working on my coffee shop plans, I'm like, okay, this is it. But so when I think of when you're at that crossroad is really important I went inward and wrote down. And again, this is where getting that pen and paper, or maybe it's not a typer.
Typewriter.
My gosh. Go get your typewriter, type it out. Back in the day, just use that. But like listing down, like, what are the things that you're passionate about? Right? What is that thing that when you do it, it brings you so much joy? Something that, so like what I usually ask clients this, if there's like one thing that you'll do for the rest of your life, you get to do it. You don't have to worry about bills. You don't have to worry about other things in your life, no distraction. This is all you get to do. What is that one thing? Right? And for me, like when I say that, it's anything that has to do with leadership. Either it's like healing and leadership, or it's, working with youth and helping them with their leadership, self-leadership. It just brings me so much joy because I get to share what has worked for me, what didn't work. And as I share that, I also remind, whoever is on the receiving end, check in with your why. Then it brings people to go think of, what is my why? Right? And it's always at the roots, with rooted in where we're from. So for me, like really deep part is that representation piece. Right? When I think of youth in Sierra Leone, in Africa, or around the world, and I'm like, what is it that I'm showing that's possible? Right? Am I walking the talk? Right? And what I'm talking, and am I, when I say, okay, I'm doing this, how am I enhancing that to even do better? Because you don't stay in the same place. Like when I think of myself staying in one place or doing the same thing, when the days become like, oh yeah, it's just another day. We don't want to get to that. But like when you stay in that place, I'm actually keeping all the other youth who look up to me, either I know it or not know it. I'm keeping them in place as well. So I have a responsibility to continue to learn and grow. So I'm going to bring it back to the why. It's rooted in like where we're from. What is it that we want to do in this world? Right? Like, what is it that we're here to do? And you got to bring it to like that passion. What are you passionate about?
Mm-hmm.
What do you want for your people, right? Like for your culture, for your bloodline, yeah. I'm gonna pause there. I can keep going, but it's like a big part of paving the way for me. It's but not paving like when you have to walk this path, but showing the possibilities.
You should write a book on Find Your Why.
Yes, I should.
Her next book is coming out. Ideation in progress.
Right.
Book 4, Find Your Why by Rasie. Co-author Monisha.
Noted.
Thank you, Rasie.
Any other questions for me?
No, I think we have overwhelmed the listeners already. But yeah, thank you, Rasie. Thank you so much for coming down and taking your time and taking us through the journey that you have experienced, your lived experience. And I am excited for your third book. I am ashamed to say that I have not read any of her books.
You got one to read now.
Yeah, I have got one to read now. So I am going to read and I am going to tell you how I felt after reading it. And I am very excited to see your third book coming out, your experiences, your lived experience, and how you lived life the way you lived. I'm really excited for it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been awesome.
I hope you enjoyed the experience of audio.
Yes, I did.
Bye. Ciao, listeners.
Bye.